our guest today was an ex-pop star. Actually, he's a singer and he still is singing, but not for the same reasons anymore. Are you getting curious? Then stay with us for the next half an hour, because we are today having Yusuf Islam, who used to be called Cat Stevens, in our studio. Most welcome. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you doing, inshallah?
Alhamdulillah.
Barakallahu fiqh. We are very happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
We will try to talk about art and the different aspects and how it is related to, let's say, to the Islamic art and what you used to do before. But to start with a story, you usually go to the beginning of a story. Could you tell us something about your past and basically how you felt, how you perceived life when you used to be a pop star?
Of course, my story has been told many times in different ways, but the main issue is that my life has been, before Islam, was a search. So whether it was my personal life or whether it was my artistic life,
yes,
I was searching for peace. I was actually searching for big answers to life, and I was looking not just for external peace, but internal peace.
Definitely.
And so my songs, if people analyze my songs, you will find there are different types of songs. Some were social songs, some were love songs, because that's the business of the pop business.
Yeah.
But many songs were spiritual songs, or songs of searching, of looking at this universe and trying to make sense.
Yes.
And so therefore I would say that I was an artist, but I was mainly a seeking artist, who my art enabled me to search for, through this universe, through what I see in the world, and looking for that peace, looking for that way of finding peace.
Yeah, this is actually just, you said so many times the few words I was going to use in my next question, is that end of the 60s and beginning of the 70s all the way through, most people really in the search of love and peace. These were like, the two main words, especially in the younger generation, that people would use, and they would turn to so many different directions and different countries too, maybe India or some kind of Buddhist meditation, etc. Now the direction to find your peace and love you took was actually very different from the large majority of the people back in the UK at that time. Could you just tell us a word about basically your first contact with the Muslim community and how it affected your art?
Well, really, I didn't contact the Muslim community until after I discovered Islam.
MashaAllah.
That's a strange story.
Yeah.
How do you discover Islam without meeting Muslims? Well, I discovered Islam by reading the Quran.
MashaAllah.
So I think I was very fortunate, because maybe someone who sees Muslims today, or comes into contact, and if they're not the right Muslim, there are many good Muslims, but if they meet the wrong kind of Muslim, maybe they will judge Islam by that.
Definitely.
I never had that chance. I went straight to the Quran, and from that I discovered the essence, what I believe to be the essence of the solutions which God has given us through this revelation, the Quran. And of course the most important one is how to access or how to approach God. And if you look at other religions, each one, there is something which, if you like, diverts one away from the pure devotion and worship the one God. And so Islam to me was the most perfect way to approach God without anybody or anything in between or diversions,
to have the right
away from God himself. So that's what I discovered. After I was convinced that this is the right path, this is the only path, this is the straight path, then I became Muslim. How do you become Muslim? You can't do it alone. You have to go to the mosque.
Definitely.
I went to the mosque, and that's where I first became introduced to the Muslim community.
All right.
And of course after that became a process of learning. Many things happened. I was learning listening. And then I found out that there was more than one school of thought, for instance.
Definitely.
You know, there's not just one like list of rules. You know, there's Sharia has many branches.
Yes.
So that's when I discovered the kind of different opinions also within Islam.
So you started your own search also, because if we see all the different currents, I think it's important to highlight this issue, because a lot of the non-Muslims are really getting lost. They don't understand. They see a man with a beard, they see a look, and they think, well, look what Islam makes valid. So this is so important to hear the voice of those who were not Muslims and embrace Islam and start searching for the truth, because even if you become a Muslim, still there is so much to learn about the religion.
That's true. I mean, at that point, of course, you're going to be tested. There's going to be lots of tests, and as you asked in your question, you know, how did it affect my art?
Yes.
Well, to be honest, when I read the Quran, there was no particular reference, no clear reference to music or music business, or, you know, although there was many references, of course, towards issues like vanity, towards you know, excessive luxury and overindulgence, greed, you know, and sex and all those kind of things, if you know what I mean. So there are guidelines regarding a way of life, but no specific reference to music. So then I found hadith and sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him. They were more clear about this issue, although at one point I was being told on the one hand that, you know, it is completely forbidden, and on the other hand I found that there was other opinions that there was some allowance, but within, you know, restricted guidelines.
Exactly.
So anyway, at that point I didn't want to do anything wrong. I didn't want to risk you know, my future.
Yes.
So I decided to leave everything until I had more knowledge, and that's what I did. So I sold my instruments, and at that point it was really a cut in relationship between myself and my past.
Yes.
I think that cut was a bit harsh, because now I'm hearing that many people, you know, could have maybe come a bit closer to Islam if I hadn't done it in such a harsh, you know, abrupt way. But that's something I learned.
Because there are many paths. You could have just gradually diminished a few issues that you wouldn't feel comfortable about, but still, you know, forward the beautiful message with the beautiful words, and just change the songs, and still be there for all those who loved you at that time.
Well,
but alhamdulillah, it's never too late.
No, that's never too late, and that's why I'm now today, for instance, looking at some of the old songs which I recorded, Peace Train, for instance. I mean, there's the message of Islam. Islam, the word comes from salam. Salam is peace. So it was already in my work, in my dreams, in my words, but I hadn't discovered it. Now that I look back at my songs, there are certain songs which quite clearly are halal, you know, no problem with those words. So I've now come to the point where I'm trying to reconnect with those people in the West who really honestly need to know something better about Islam. They need a better approach, because they like those songs, and because they like, you know, beauty and aesthetics.
They miss it.
They miss it. So I'm now trying to get in contact with them through reproducing within Islamic guidelines good songs, good words and good rhythms, something they can be attracted to.
And you did very well, mashallah. Let's have a look at what I would say a comparison of the before and after with that very same song.
That would be interesting.
Yes, and it's far from being boring, actually. Well, watching this, it really reminds me this wonderful feeling of peace that Islam has brought into my life. I believe you're not a stranger to it, neither. What kind of message is this? What you want your songs to reflect? What kind of message you want to basically communicate to people through your songs now?
Well, there are many, of course, many things we want to communicate. But ultimately, we want to show that there is beauty, there is meaning, and there is peace. in Islam. What people see today of the tragedies, which are facing and encompassing our world, are really distortions of human life and the Muslim way of life. I mean, when the Prophet, peace be upon him, said and told us and taught us this prayer, Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam, fahayyina rabbana bis salam, tabarakta rabbana wa ta'alayta ya dha jalali wal ikram. I mean, there are different du'as, but essentially that spirit is not seen by many people. They don't see the prayers. They know little about the spirituality exactly.
of Islam.
So that's kind of part of it. The other thing is there's an educational edge. And I think it's very important also to realize that whatever we do, we must have an educational, it's towards enhancing knowledge, understanding, and so it's not just words for the sake of filling a song. This is we're not just talking about making rhymes. We're really talking about giving meaning, and I've written a few poems recently, and I think people will be interested in what we have to say.
Great. But peace is one of those words that when you hear it, the next word that comes to the mind is very often hope. And I would like to have your opinion. Now you're back in the media, and your activities, your work is very much related to the media. So as a Western, let's say Westerner Muslim, how do you feel that the media is currently portraying the image of Islam and the situation of Muslims? It's something different, I would say. You can never judge the religion just on the reflect of people, but Islam, this beautiful religion,
we have a very big difficulty, of course, with the way in which the media has been, if you like, enclosed or has been grabbed by big business. So it becomes a means of making money, and when you come to that, then the whole objective is to satisfy the nafs, to satisfy people's longing to see more, people undressing. I mean, that's what we see on television.
The ego, what the ego wants to have and feed more, and then go to those exaggerated extremes that are very unhealthy for the society.
I mean, I just think that there is enough that we can offer, but we need to find a way of transmitting our way of life through the media and filtering, if you like, our artistic message through our belief in the divine and our belief in Islam. We don't sort of leave our Islam here and then we go into the media. We have to find a way of making it real from the Islamic point of view. And I think the problem will be, and it is today, that some Muslims have just said, well, we go for the media, and regardless of Islam, and that's wrong. We should make sure that we blend and we filter whatever we do with our belief and as we believe in Islam. So that's the difficulty, but I don't think it can be that difficult if we try. I think the only thing is we are compelled to try.
Yeah, definitely. People need really to start making those changes, and Islam is a way of life, and this is the only way we can forward the message to people, by portraying the best image we can to others, and especially to those non-Muslims. And I would like to ask you also to, regarding these values, and we're talking about the different ways of life from one society to another. I would say that the large majority of new Muslims, and especially in these past years, are, we could say, in between two cultures. Just like you and me, probably we Westerner, but at the same time, of course, and with pleasure, we very much indeed influence and enjoying the influence of the Islamic culture. So we have this contrast of the before and after. How do you think, or what are the values you think that Islam or the Islamic culture could give to those Western societies, to our countries that are actually, those values that we are losing nowadays?
Well, it's obvious that if you look at the history and recent history, the spiritual values, religious values have been disappearing, from the Western society. Its advancements in technology and in science, with its drive for economic goals, has actually forced it to leave behind an incredible treasure, which I believe we have.
Yes.
Now the problem is we appear to be backwards because we're kind of, to some Westerners, we appear, well, what have we produced? Actually, when we were at the forefront of our strength in Islam, we were at the forefront also of science and developing those things which human being needs. In so many fields of science, of optics and medicine and geography and anthropology. So therefore I think that we need to reclaim this educational ground, and that way I think that we can also make sure that we can infuse today's world with spirit, because we have the answers. As far as I can see, we have the answers, but a lot of Muslims also are not delivering those answers to the West. We're kind of, we're looking at our pieces, our land, our borders, and really we should be talking about universal issues.
Very true.
And that's what I believe Islam is.
You pointed out something really nice, because sometimes when we talk about values, a lot of people will go like, of course this is important, all these problems we have with pedophilia or drug abuses and these kind of issues that are more and more available, and especially in some so-called civilized or advanced or modern societies. But this issue you just pointed out, I think needs to talk a little more about it. And definitely I remember when I was a teenage, or even later on in my studies, and for the large majority of the studies you can have in Europe or in Western societies, you would get very, very little information about the beautiful heritage we have from Muslims or from Arabs, generally talking. Very often we hear it comes from the Romans, and the Romans, they had it from who knows where. It's not really specified that not so long back, before actually people came from North Africa or from different Arabic countries, we had very little here in Europe. Just to start with Spain, for instance, people used to wear their clothes until they were completely finished, because they didn't even wash them. They didn't know what soap was. They didn't have mathematics, even medicine. All these issues, go to the small thing, to the even the luxury, though it's not recommended in Islam, but the silk and all these materials, coffee, and even the furniture at home. All of these issues come from the Arabs and the Islamic culture. Would you like to tell a word about that?
Well, I think you explained it, or most of it has been explained in your question, because again people are locked out of information which we know we have in Islam, in our history, connected to the kind of a contribution which Islam made to civilization. If you look at any history book today, Western history book, you'll find a few pages, pages, and you'll see so much about the Romans. Yes. I don't know why they don't mention more about the Greeks, actually, because maybe Greece had more influence on the Roman. But anyway, there's so much kind of imbalance there. That's where we come down again. It is not a matter of waiting for others to do this work. It's a matter of Muslims, getting up and devoting themselves to this work. It's not, we can't point fingers and blame everybody because of our situation.
No, definitely.
We have to change, our attitude and contribute. Definitely. That's how we did it in the past. That's how we've got to do it now.
We're going to do it, inshallah. What a beautiful song. Could you tell us a word as a conclusion, because we are getting to the end of the program, about your work and whatever you feel you'd like to share with the viewers as a last word, basically.
What you've seen today is an effort which we've been working on to, let's say, to convey the message of Islam through our company or Mountain of Light, and we have I think a lot of talent which is going to come out very soon in the future, and I believe that if we can inspire the youth to regain their love of Islam and their adherence and their belief, I think that tomorrow, inshallah, will look better.